Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with our series of Shirim on the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom, his commentary on the Ijer Rabbah. And what we're up to right now is where Rashbi is being Megala, the process of entering into the garden, to become one of the Machatz Techakla, one of the individuals who are capable of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of the elevation of the Shekhinah, which is to return the presence of godliness as it expresses itself down here in apparent separation from the illuminated source of all things, and to clarify and to clear out the congealment and the concealment so that we can elevate this worldliness back up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be Mechaber the Shechina with Doda, to be Mechaber the Shechina with HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol. And as long as the Avoda is for the sake of the Shechina, as long as the work that we take upon ourselves is to clarify the concealment so that the Nakuda that rests within my heart can find its way back to the original place that it comes from, then our avoda is one that is deserving of becoming one of the gardeners and the threshers of the field, as opposed to any avoda that is oriented towards some physiological response or even to some spiritual response or the self production or the self-acclaim that a person imposes on themselves by way of doing spiritual work. All of those are reasonable reasons for a person entering into the path of avodah, mitoch shelo lishma balishma. But nevertheless, when it comes to becoming one of the machatz techakla, when it comes to becoming somebody who can lay claim to the responsibility of eis lasos laHashem hifru sarasecha, to become a person who can enter into the gan, to become a person who's armed with the weapons of the mind, with the kitra, with the reimach, with the cherev, with the magain, utilizing all of the strengths to cut through the thicket of concealment, to cut through the kushios and to be magalu the terutzim, and to cut through the concealment and to reveal the revelation. All of this demands an alignment with learning Torah Lishma, with entering into the garden of Pnimius HaTorah for the sake of elevating the Shekhinah. Now, elevating the Shekhinah means helping a person uncover the innermost point of godliness that exists within themselves so that they can elevate all that appears to be outside of the purview of HaKadosh Baruch Hu back up to the framework of the unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when a person is learning or taking on for themselves a new responsibility of Eis Lasos Lashem Hifr Soresecha, to undergo a process of becoming someone responsible for teaching Pnimius HaTorah, revealing more and more Pnimius HaTorah in the world, for the sake of the Shekhinah also means, as the Baal Tanya points out, for the sake of the Shekhinah that rests within each and every person, and the Rachmanis that we have to have on the Nitzutz Eliki that rests within our very own hearts, in the fact that it finds itself stuck in the concealment of Yeyush and sadness and difficulty and transgression. So any time that Pnimius HaTorah is niskala to heal the individual by way of revealing to them the potency of their souls, to help a person climb out of their own stuckness, is also Laman Tikun HaShekhinah. And that's also something that gives a person the possibility of entering in to becoming one of the Machatz Techakla, someone who clears out the thicket and the overgrowth in the field and reveals the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is planted there. And so we said, Rashbi points out, and the Ramchal points out, that the reason that Rashbi the Chaverov would wander in the northern hills of Eretz Yisrael rather than spending time in the Beis Medrash, because we see in the Zohar HaKadosh, the Zohar HaKadosh is not a book of the Beis Medrash, as we've said. The book of the Zohar HaKadosh is a book of the outside. But why was it a book of the outside? What was it about the wandering out of the civilized areas and into the frightening, often unknown territories of darkness? Why was it specifically there that the Chavraya Kadisha would wander out? And this is something that we have throughout generations, that the tzaddikim would wander out. They would wander out onto the roads. And as we're going to see, as the Zohar Kadosh points out, the Shekhinah HaKadosh is called a malon. It's like a hotel on the road for a Yid when they find themselves wandering along the road. And just as the Shekhinah wanders along the road in exile from its supernal source, Kaviyachol, and the presence of godliness in this world appears to be separate and removed from the presence of godliness outside of this world, there's a separation between the Yichud Ilah of Shema Yisrael and the Yichud Tata of Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Va'ed, which is the idea of Kudsha Richa V'Shchinte. And so when we wander out along the paths in our own minds and our own lives in trying to align, to empathize with the wandering of the Shekhinah, Kavyachol, that gives us an orientation towards one of the next steps that we need to do in order to draw down light. And what's the thing that has to be done? We have to free ourselves from the suffocating air of this world, as the Ramchal points out. The air of this world is the air of Eretz Ha'amim. It's the air of the opposite of Gan Eden. The air of Gan Eden is drawing in chayas into the individual, and the air of Eretz Ha'amim is taking away chayas from the individual. There's a pollution in the air that slowly but surely keeps a person stuck in the congealment and the closedness of the mind and the heart and the body that is incapable of entering into the realm of Kedusha, that is incapable of entering in to the realm of Machatzte Chakla, into the Panemius of the Panemius. And therefore, in order to set things up, we have to learn how to draw down a more refined form of air. We have to learn how to breathe from the columns of air of Gan Eden that remain accessible to us with the proper orientation, not only of breath itself, but various concepts and the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the contemplation of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which will enable a person to literally enter into this place of the Yichud Hagan, of performing the unification in the mind by way of contemplating the divine names, which represent the expressions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's potency and strength by way of our contemplation on those letters. We create the response that we awaken ourselves as vessels to draw down the light that is represented by those names itself, the process of yichudim, which are at the hands of each and every person to be able to do. To be miyached yichudim. This is one of the ways that the Baal Shem Tov is told by Mashiach Tzidkenu that Mashiach is going to come. That kishem yachdim yichudim kamoischa. So the Ramchal is about to introduce to us a particular unification. We're not like Rashbi. We're nowhere near the Talmidim of the Tzaddikim who are able to do this. But what we're able to do is we're able to utilize the names, the technological expressions that the Tzaddikim reveal to us in terms of the permutations of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When contemplated properly, a person can draw down pockets of air from Gan Eden for themselves, and they can enter into a new way of functioning. The breath can become easier. The orientation in this world can become calmer. It's no longer fighting against reality, but reality now is working for me rather than against me. I'm back in the place of Gan Eden, and I'm able now to reveal the light that is necessary to be revealed in the darkened place that I find myself sitting. And this is going to be the beginning. We're going to see, we're not learning this L'uvdu Ulamaisa. We'll talk about what it means to do L'uvdu Ulamaisa and where to look for more insight on that. But what we're going to do, like everything else that we've been doing, is we're going to read the words of the Heilige Ramchal, and we're going to move through this preparation for the unification of drawing down the air of Gan Eden into our minds so that we can properly serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is on Daf Nun Zayin in the Machon Haramchal edition of the Adir BaMarom on the Idra Zuta, on the Idra Rabbah. Zak the Heilige Ramchal, v'oid oidiacha ze hadavar bebirur. Now let me explain to you, after explaining to you all the various weapons that are necessary for entering in, let me explain to you the process, the pathway in. Epes ki lo yuchal leba'er hakol b'chsav. The Ramchal says, but nevertheless, even though I'm revealing something to you, I won't be able to explain everything written out clearly. Because in truth, a teaching like this needs to be given over mouth to mouth. The teaching like this needs to be given over by way of Rebbe to a Talmud direct, panim el panim, to give over the inner process of how to enter in to the gates of Kedusha in a real way, to enter back into a mindset of Gan Eden. In truth, it's being written, but the fact that it's being written doesn't mean that it's all revealed. It means that it's being written in such a way that it still conceals what it's truly trying to say, because be'emes, in truth, the real way to learn these teachings by way of actual application is to receive it from a living teacher. Alkein ani dober lo besirugin. And therefore, I'm going to speak kind of out of order. And in Machon Ramchal, and we have a Talmud of the Rebbe who put out a sefer, and there's also in the Shalom Yerushalayim, they were Masader the Yichud. They gave us a clear description of what the Yichud looked like. And again, it's in the aspect of Eis Lasos Lashem Hifr Sorasecha, that the Ramchal didn't want to say exactly how to do it. But nowadays, if there's somebody who knows how to do it, and we can follow the writings to make it a little bit more accessible for the individual who feels that they're worthy of contemplating these ideas, so the Machabrim who have put out these copies of Adir BaMarom and these Svarim have put together the Yichud itself kind of at the back of this chapter, which goes through the very specific meditation and kind of orientation and unification that a person is going to go through. But the Ramchal is saying that by definition, it can't be conveyed explicitly and clear, and therefore we're going to write by way of kind of a roundabout way, and it's going to be somewhat out of order. Ki ema v'yira gedoyla ma'od ma'od tzarich le'ira me'la'achos b'derech hazeh. Because when a person is about to enter into the Kedusha of this type of path of Avodah, there must be a significant sense of awe and concern and fear in a very, very real way that a person has to feel within themselves prior to embarking upon a path like this. Gam kihu derech Hashem be'emes. Even though it's truly the way to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, lav kol haroitza roitza, not each and every person who wants to enter in has truly expressed the desire to enter in. But once a person truly expresses the desire to enter in, then it becomes a derech Hashem be'emes. But a person has to be careful, and a person has to take great care. Derech muvchar, derech nechmad umarutza. This is the chosen path, this is the beautified path, and this is the desired path. Ki ach makom shel heves hagacheles urashpeha rishbe'es. But nevertheless, the point at which the flame is connected to the coal, meaning when we're contemplating concepts of the emergence of disparity from within unity and relating to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, creation of the world and unifying names at the point of unity, which represents the flame coming out of the coal and how the coal contains the flame within itself and how the flame is not something separate from the coal. All of this brings us into the place of Rishpeha Rishpei Eish, the intensification of the Gevuros and the intensity of the path that it takes to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu by way of Ahava and Yira. Nevertheless, there's a rishba eish boyer v'rav ad lev hashamayim. There's a fire, there's a burning desire that is uncovered when a person encounters this path that must be protected at all costs. V'sarech ha'adam lishmor atzmoi mimenu shmiros gedolos pen yoachel boy rega echad. A person must ensure that they are taking the proper protective steps in order to ensure that they're not burned by this fire. V'hashmira tluya b'nakius. And the shmira is cleanliness. As the Ramchal himself is masbir in Mesilas Yesharim, living a clean life, leading a life of self-control, living a life of overcoming the base desires and understanding the secret of deferring immediate gratification and delaying gratification and ensuring that my body and my behaviors are in line with the desires that I have. That is the prerequisite, nikius, cleanliness. Shia adam hahu naki v'tahor b'ma'asav, that the individual should be clean and that they should be purified in their actions. And mikveh is masugul like this. There's nothing that's as masugul for hasaga like mikveh itself, as Rabbeinu tells us. And furthermore, in addition to the Nikius, like we said, another prerequisite is that the limud and the process of entering in back into the air of Gan Eden is for the sake of the rectification of the Shechina, the element of godliness that is concealed in this lowly world that seems to be so removed and so foreign to the real illumination of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light. And it's our job to reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu down here, to elevate the Shechina back up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalot timsa b'machshavto shum roishem pniya acheres. A person shouldn't have any remnant of any other desire in their mind. Even for a person's desire to rectify themselves or even their neshama in order to find grace in the eyes of the king, this is not the intentionality. The intentionality must be ki'im la'asais ritzoni lebad. I have to do the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't matter what it does for me. It doesn't matter what impact it has on me. What matters most is doing the thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do. From the intensity of love and the depth of connectivity and desire towards unity that I feel. This needs to be the motivating factor, as the Ramchal describes in Chasidus, in Mesilas Yesharim. V'al hakol yiras haremus. And above all else, there must be yiras haremus. There must be an awe, a wonder in the face of the grandiosity and the infinitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the yira ilah, the nullification of the self, the bitul muchletas that comes out when a person is face to face with the infinitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lios lo la'atara al roshe neged einav v'al panav tamid. A person must wear the crown of yiras haremus, not a fear of punishment, but rather a fear of disconnection because of how profoundly powerful and illuminated the desire we have is to connect to the infinite. And when I feel that intensity and that love, so there's a yiras haremus, there's an awesome kind of awe in the face of this tremendous thing that I don't want to lose it for even a second. This must be the crown on my head, and it must be in front of my eyes and on my face at all times. A person shouldn't allow their minds to get the better of them, and they say to themselves, I'm a clean person, and that my maisim and my actions are responsible in the eyes of Hashem and desired in the eyes of Hashem. A person should not say this. A person should always operate with that sense of deficiency, with that yiras haremus, that I stand in the face of God, and in the face of God, everything is limited and everything is imperfect, and to own that limitation and to own the anava and the bittul that comes along with it. All the more so, most certainly, a person shouldn't have any implicit or explicit desire that their searching for wisdom should should bring with it some ego manifestation or some grandeur or some, reputation growth, God forbid. Elatihya avoidasoi soilis nakia, but rather a person's avodah should be a clean measure of avodah. Rak lahachzir ashlina el asher el hamelach, to return the light of godliness that remains concealed in this world back up to the source of godliness that's outside of this world. Ulegadol kvoda yisparach shemo, and to reveal the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to reveal how great and how powerful the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, and we do that by way of revealing him in the lower places that we encounter. Ukasher yimsa adamas atzmo kein, and when a person finds themselves operating at this place, when a person feels that they can truly say that their intentions are right, yedashu HaKadosh asher yivchar Hashem, a person should know that they are the Holy One, they are the Blessed One who is chosen by God, and that they should push themselves along the path into the innermost chamber, into the Heichal HaKadosh, in order to benefit from the seeking out of the pleasantness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name that we can find in his Heichal. The Imlav, but if a person feels that they're not worthy of this state, Yishmar v'yishmor nafsha ma'od, a person has to ensure that they're guarding themselves, pen yiyeh mekalka v'lo metakin, because perhaps by way of trying to go in and contemplating the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it could cause yuhara, it could cause gaiva, it could be mebalbel l'moichin, and it can cause a kilkul rather than a tikkun. V'yidche chas v'shalom ka'acher, and a person can end up being pushed away, and they can end up having a complete misorientation to the secrets of Torah and to the secrets of reality, just like Acher, just like Elisha ben Avua did as a result of not going into the Yichud properly. Or if you're not going to be as Nebuch as an Acher, you might experience a Ben Zoma avoida, which is that you lose your mind a little bit. And a person shouldn't say, no matter how much we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to enter in, and no matter how much we know that whatever we do is good, when it comes to operating with the technologies and contemplating the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a person shouldn't say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, forgiving in all areas and he forgets about the Nikios, and that why do I need to go through the process of Nikios? No, a person shouldn't say that. A person has to do all of the prerequisite responsible things within their framework of volitional behavior to prepare themselves properly to be of the Bnei Hechala. Ki lo yinosan Hashem hamasa hazos al kol ben adam lasoso. So this is not a mitzvah of the Taryag mitzvos. It's certainly a yichud, being miyached, the shame of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, operating with the realm of yichudim, as we know from the tzaddikim, is a tremendous thing that's worthy of each and every neshama of contemplating the Shem Havaya in its four tzirufim, the tziruf of Milo Yudin, which is Ab, the tziruf of Yud and Aleph, which is Sag, the tziruf of Aleph, the Miloi of Aleph, which is Ma, and the Miloi of Hey, or double Shem Havaya, which is Ben. And we should also know the three Shemos of Eheke in its Miloi, with the Yud, with the Aleph, and with the Hey. These are going to be the four names of Havaya, the three names of Eheke, as we're going to see in the Shirim from the Rebbe on Rabba Barachana, which is the secret of Dag, eating fish, are the four permutations of the Shem Havaya and the three permutations of the Shem Eheke. Those are things that each and every person should be doing. Shavisi Hashem Lenegdi Kamid. A person should perpetually be contemplating the Shem Havaya. But to be miyachid yichudim, in order to enter into the garden, in order to draw down the air of Gan Eden, to be mitkayim the avoida of being mavar birurim without the concern of sitra achra coming to find me, or without the concern of being mixed up and muddled up, this does not rest on the shoulders of each and every person. And therefore, one can't say that, I can enter in with whatever it is that I am, because there's a certain prerequisite. A person has to work on themselves. In order to be someone who lives with a path of seriousness, where the contemplation of letters in my mind bears some significance in reality, that means that's a person who takes their life seriously, a person who understands the responsibility and the need of self-control in each and every day, that I have to wake up in the morning and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, today I'm going to try and be a little bit more in control of this body, which is an animal, and I'm going to try and allow the mind to be shoylet on the lave. A person must be an oived. A person has to be an oived Hashem in this world. That's our responsibility. It's the gift. It's the opportunity that we have. But when it comes to entering into a place of being miyachid yichudim, so the Ramchal is saying, don't think that I can just say, no, it's fine. No, adarabba. There's avodah that a person has to do, and they have to prepare themselves. Each and every person has the ability to do this, but each and every person has to take the responsibility upon themselves to do this, and it's inherent completely in the connection that one has to the tzaddikim amitim. The Toldos Yaakov Yosef seems to imply that that when it comes to Yichudim, not everybody should be doing Yichudim. Not everybody should be thinking about the Shem of Havaya. Not everybody should be contemplating the different sirufim of the Shem Havaya. On the other hand, as the Kedushas Levi says, and as the Kamarna points out, and the Zidichaver points out, each and every yid should be doing Yichudim. Even the children should be doing Yichudim and contemplating the names of God. As the Arizal would give over certain Yichudim, certain contemplations and contemplative names of God in order to alleviate a particular sin that they were in. So we see that it's not a matter of being completely removed from difficulty that is the prerequisite for encountering Yichudim. So which is it? Does a person have to be completely refined, or does a person just have to be a human being and feel that they need it? So what the Rebbe says, what the Rebbe points out, and the Commander Rebbe also points this out, is that it depends upon the hiskashus that a person has to the tzaddikim. When a person is mavata ledas to the tzaddikim, and a person is mavata ledas to the das of Moshe, and the tzaddikim amitim, and all of their avodah is al shame, and through the hiskashus to the avodah of the tzaddikim, who's the shliach tzibur, takes all of the avodah up, and it's the chazan who leads the tefillah, because the chazan has more of the capacity to be mechavein and to do the yichudim. When I attach myself to that, and I believe that it's the koach of Moshe and Rashbi and the Arizal and the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbeinu and all of the tzaddikim amitim who move through me, like we saw from the Ramchal earlier, that Moshe Rabbeinu had the chut that was mislabish in him to one degree or another, in the secret of Moshe and Mashiach. And when a person is mavatal themselves to the tzaddikim, then they have the ability to enter into a place of yichudim with confidence. Al kol bnei adam lasos. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu Avada did not give this responsibility upon each and every person. He understands the nature of how we function. He understands our tendency and our susceptibility to failure and to seeking out arrogance and to the good feeling that a person gets by doing complicated spiritual activity. A person comes to think, wow, ani hagever, I'm the person who did this. Adarab, that's not the avodah. The avodah is that we're trying to do it laman hashchina. We're doing it laman HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Torah was not given to Malachai Asharis. Not each and every person is expected to be Mesridim Hashem Koira. Not every person is meant to stand up and say, I'm that person. But nevertheless, each and every person has the ability. It's those who are called with the strength that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed within their heart. It's those people, those who are seeking out more and more and want to do more for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're going to be the ones who bring out the korban and the pleasant smell for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take and find pleasantness and benefit from this avodah that they're offering. Ish Al Yazid Lakirba El Ha'avoida Hagadoila Vaharama Hazois Asher Lo Yikra. But a person who is not prepared to go through this process should not come close to this avoida for which he is not called. And a person has not purified themselves, and a person has not gotten into a rhythm of that mikvah tahara and the rhythm of being clean, living a clean life without shame. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want a person who doesn't take themselves seriously enough to try and cleanse themselves and refine their physiological experience in this world. It's not for that person that this particular yichud in the heart is called for. Ki im b'shafel yeshev kechol shar b'nei ha'adam yachad. A person there should not try and be different than every other human being. They should remain like all other human beings who do great avodah, but are not necessarily entering into the realm of yichud. For the realm of yichud, for the yichudim kamaischa, for the unification of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where by contemplating the letters of the name, we purify our minds with the air of Gan Eden, that's not for everybody. Velo yarim levavo me'achiv lihinase el lo nachon lo. And it should not be that someone who is unworthy of entering into this level should say, oh, I'm going to be better than my brethren, and I'm going to enter into the avodah of the yichudim. V'yakabel schar al haprisha kal hadrisha. And when a person realizes that this avodah is not for them and that they don't have the ability to do this necessarily, so they receive the reward by refraining from it as much as they would have received the reward of chasing after it. Va'al kain, and therefore says Rabbeinu Haramchal, Eineni mevar lefanecha hadvarim kisimla al seder hanachon. I'm not going to explain to you the process of this meditative unity, this meditative unification of the letters and the permutations of the names. I'm not going to explain it to you in a clear way. Laman lo kol haroitz litol es Hashem yava litol, to ensure that only those who know, only those who have a teacher, only those who have a clear path through the thicket are going to be able to make their way out. But reading the text itself and going over the details of the text itself will not bring a person to where they need to be. And the reason for that is because it's an insurance device that ensures that those who are unworthy of entering into the Pardes won't enter into the Pardes. Ki im efarish devrei kodesh Rashbi zal al mitchaynam. I'm going to explain I'm going to explain the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai according to themselves. The kol hakora yeda asher lo yuchal limtzah b'devari elu limud maspik lavoidi de maisa. And a person will understand, a person with an attuned eye or an ear will come to understand that in the teachings that I'm offering, says Rabbeinu Ramchal, it's not enough to come out with an uvda lemaisa. And all of this is for the reason that we said, in order to protect, in order to ensure that not the wrong person take it. Kiyim lahalacha, that we're learning about it lahalacha, but not lemaisa. We're learning about the contemplation of the idea, but not the actual practice of the idea. Lahavinas hadavar masher lefanecha, to understand the matters of the words. V'hakohanim v'ha'am al yaharsu la'alus el Hashem pen yifrotz bahem chas v'shalom. And the Kohanim and the nation should not break through the barrier, because then if they do, then perhaps there's going to be something difficult. So the Ramchal is making a very clear distinction over here between the halacha and the maisa of this. The halacha of the yichud, the understanding of what it means to draw down the air of Gan Eden into our minds, to contemplate it like we think about other inyanim and amuna, that's something that's responsible and incumbent upon each and every person. That is something we have to cultivate the deepest reservoirs of faith within our minds, and this weapon of the mind, the yichud hagan, the notion that I can breathe deep and draw down air from Gan Eden that still exists, and columns of air that are still there for me to connect in a deep way, to free myself from the suffocation of it all. That is something that each and every person has to live with. That's something that each and every person has to understand. Each and every breath is praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The secret of the neshima is the neshama. Each and every person has to know how it works. The question is, are we people who have the capacity of undergoing the actual practice? Now, again, we have tzaddikim in our generation. For example, the Rebbe feels that yichudim are something that really, really, really are there for each and every person to do. Again, as long as a person lives in accordance with this prerequisite of tahara, of going to mikveh, of tefillas Ezra, of purifying the self, of utilizing the portal that is the mikveh to transform one's mind from the state that it was in to a new state. Whether a person needs a mikveh or not, the mikveh is mosif kedusha. There's nothing that's misugul to hasaga, to grasping HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through our minds, hearts, and bodies, like the mikveh itself. And that's why the Ramchal is really, really setting up the importance of knowing the distinction here. We're not trying to be mikubalim. We're learning in order to survive. We're learning in order to draw down new nekudos of faith through the secret of tzaddik ba'emunah so yichya, the emunah kol zos, and that amud, that b'chabakuk v'himir al achas tzaddik ba'emunah so yichya. That's all that we have. And in that sense, learning the yichud of the Gan, even if we're not practicing it in terms of yichudim, we're nevertheless giving ourselves the capacity to relate in a different way to the light of Gan Eden that still exists perpetually in our lives. Zak Tehillah Ramchal. This is the first iteration of the Yichud Hagan, and that's what we're going to end with tonight, Amir Hashem. Da. Ki hefresh gadol yesh bein avir ha'olam hazeh la'avir hagan Eden. Like we said, there is a very, very big difference between the air of this world and the air of Gan Eden that we have the ability of drawing down into our lives. Ki zeh avir. In the world, we breathe air. Aleph, vav, yud, resh. Avir. Meaning the yud is hidden within the word or. It's aleph, vav, yud, which separates the aleph vav from the resh, and then afterwards it's a resh. So it's the word yud, or, light, but there's a yud hidden within it. The avir gan Eden, but the secret of avir gan Eden is yud or. The yud is not inside of the avir. It's not blocking the letters of or from connecting to themselves. Rather, or stands alone and the yud stands alone. Or is expression. The yud is tzimtzum. The yud is the initiation of revelation. In the world of this world, concealment rests at the heart of revelation. There is the yud that's hidden within the or, and it becomes avir. But in Gan Eden, it's a yud or. They're two expressions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that are not mixed up with one another, and therefore we have a much fuller expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'sod ha'inyan. And the secret of the matter is as follows, like the pasuk says, Haya'oire tashlichuhu, that any child who is going to be born in Mitzrayim, Paro Harasha said that you should throw them into the Ya'oira. The Ya'oira means the Yud Or, into this place. This is the place that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be born, as we're going to see, the secret of the air of Gan Eden. And so, Shapirshu b'tikunim, the Tikunei Zohar say as follows. They say that what does it mean, Haya'oira tishlichuha? In the Tikunei Zohar Chadash, we see as follows. V'ihi Hashem itmar ba, V'tasem ba'asayeled, v'tasem b'soif da'iraisa. That what is this ya'ira? It's the Torah. and that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't being placed on the lip of the Nile River, but he was being placed at the lip of the Torah. Begin lechasa le begalusa da ala itmar, in order to protect him in the time of exile, upon which it is written, Kol haben hayolid hayoira tashlichuhu. All of the male children who are born should be thrown into the Nile River. The ihu nuhura da iraisa the ihu or tashlichuhu. But what it's really saying is that to protect the neshamos, you have to throw them into the or. You have to throw them into the or. And the Oira reveals the Or of Gan Eden, where there's the Yud and there's the Or, which are two separate expressions, but they're seen and shown to be functioning in unity, as opposed to the Avir, where they're mixed up and the Yud is blocking the Or. And this secret of the Yud Or is the side of the Or of the Torah, light of the Torah, as the Tikkunim said. And the Sod HaInyan, the secret of the matter is as follows. He Or Yud. What's the unity of the Or, the light, and the Yud? Soidam Chesed V'Din Shenoldu B'Tchilas HaMetzias B'Sod HaTzimtzum. So the original expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a concealment for the sake of revelation. It's a hiding by way of revealing a concealment valve that seems to cover over the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a removal for the sake of an expression, because without Tzimtzum, there could be no revelation because of the profundity of the light, and therefore the Tzimtzum is the prerequisite towards any element of revelation. So therefore we find that there is a paradox at the heart of the Tzimtzum, but because we're operating at such a lofty place where both of them are functioning side by side with one another, so it represents the very beginningness of creation, the secret of the Yud Or, the secret of a Tzimtzum and an Or, the removal of the Yud, meaning the innermost point of the Tzimtzum where HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates reality, is the tzimtzum, and then there's the or that comes into it. And that's the secret of the air of Gan Eden, where the yud and the or, where concealment and revelation are working together. They're working together. They're shown to not be opposites to one another. There's no claustrophobia. There's no stuckness. And we're going to see this later on in the Idraba when it comes to understanding the tikkun that are associated with the hairs of the head, which are also methods of diminution of the light for the sake of revelation, and how there's a secret line of the scalp that rests underneath all of the complications of the hair, which represents a much higher level of yichud, and we're going to see that. Or when we're dealing with the air of this worldliness, when it's avir, when the yud is within the word and splitting up the or itself, or it creates a partition and a blockage within the or, and that's the element of a sisum. That's the bechina of a situm, a closedness, a closed pocket where I'm no longer able to access the expandability and the exhaustive nature of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. She'ena or yachol espashet betavko, because the light is contained here and it can't reveal itself with its strength. That's the tzimtzum of this world, where the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't reveal itself fully, and there's a certain element of claustrophobia and suffocation. Beside yud or yud, but when it comes to the or yud, or the yud or of Gan Eden, ha-or yachol hischaber lispashet umeir harbe, because there's nothing blocking the or, and the tzimtzum is shown to be a kli that reveals the or more and more. There's nothing blocking the light, and the light can express itself further and further. That's what we want to do for ourselves. We want to go from a space of privation of light to a saturation of light. That is what this yichud hagan is, how a person enters into a place of the scarcity of light where there's not so much because it can't express itself outwardly, versus entering into a place where there's an illumination, and I don't need the tzimtzum so much anymore. At that point, the yud, the tzimtzum, is not blocking the light from expressing itself, but it's only there as a secondary form of expressing the light. That at that point, the tzimtzum is no longer going to conceal and force us to operate in this level of concealment and hierarchy, but rather it's going to be revealed as just being a handmaid into the light, and it's going to reveal that each and every person can have a hasaga. And this is what it meant, that in order to save Moshe Rabbeinu, that he had to be thrown into the Yoira, into the Yud Or. That was the way that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to be Naskala, by being thrown into that place where the light is being fundamentally revealed in the secret of the Torah and the secret of Gan Eden. And I'm going to tell you a big secret, says Rabbeinu Ramchal. In this pasuk, HaYoira, there's the hint to a name of a malach that we can contemplate And this Malach, the celestial force, is the one who has responsibility over Gan Eden. So when we want to enter into a place, anytime a person wants to enter into a place, they're going to have to break free and deal with the guardians that rest blocking the entrance into that place. And therefore, in order to enter into this Heichal of Gan Eden, a person has to first and foremost contemplate the name of the Malach or the force that is associated with that, which is Aleph Vav Reish Yud Hey. That's the name of the Malach associated with Gan Eden, which is obviously found in the pasuk Haya Oira, which is the secret of Yud Or as well, or Yud. Sha'alav Amru, that about this Malach it says in the parak of Bava Basra, Chaf Hey Amar Aleph, Aleph Vav Reish Yud Hey means Avir Ka. It means the air of Gan Eden, the air of drawing down the light of the Yud and the K, the ascendancy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's transcendence, when I breathe that into myself. And why is it that thinking about this Malach as the guardian to Gan Eden will help us enter into Gan Eden? Because in truth, Gan Eden is representative of the Yud and the K. The Yud is Chachma and the K is Bina. The Yud is Eden and the Hey is the Gan. Nahar Yoitze me Eden lahashkes Sagan. And so we see that the Yud K is deeply associated with our entrance into Gan Eden itself. V'hu Hashem Shabot Tzarech Lehischazik Lahamshich Ha'avir Shel Gan Eden Ba'avir Hazeh Derech Sha'arim. And this is the name Aleph Vav Reish Yud Hey, and all of the associations and the Yud Or and the Or Yud. This is the name that one must strengthen themselves with and contemplate in order to draw the light and the air of Gan Eden down into the air of this world through the gates that open up for us to draw down celestial and supernal light into our experience. As is going to be explained to you later on. Says Ramchal, and I've already messed around with the order of things so that nobody should really think that they know what I'm talking about. For the reason that I explained earlier, so that nobody should be able to take the words that I'm saying and actually act on them, even though we have the ability to act on them as well. When a person contemplates in these meditations, as we're going to see, we have the ability to draw down this light, this Or Yud, this Avir, the air of Gan Eden, Chazik B'Shem Zeh. We have to strengthen ourselves by thinking about this name, contemplating this name, breathing in deeply with this name, Lahachsir Ha'avir Liyud Or, in order to transform and open up the concealment of the air, the suffocation of the air, and to allow it to expand, and for the Yud to leave the Or and to be a Yud Or, but not an Avir. And then what a person should contemplate is the word Or, which is the gematria 207 5 times, which is going to bring us to 1035. And the secret of 1035, which is Aleph, Elef, Lamed Hey. Elef means 1,000. It really just means Aleph. Aleph and Elef, 1,000, and the Aleph represent the same thing, and therefore 1035 is representative of Aleph, Lamed Hey, which is the secret of Ele, Ki Aleph Torah Elef, because the Aleph is the secret of Elef and 1,000, and so it's really the letter Aleph. The Hey Pamim Yud Hu Yam, and 5 times 10 is going to be 50, which is Yam. So we have Elokim, we have the name of Elokim. And so this is the next thing that a person is doing in the meditation. We're trying to draw down the Or Yud to be mamtik, all of the dinim of Elokim. Va'az ne'emar, and then when it says, Kol ha'necholim holchem elayan, all of the streams go forth to the sea, which is a secret of Malchus, and it breaks through all of the concealment of an Imsheches ha'ara b'nachleha, and it allows the light of its illumination to spread forth across all of the veins and outgrowths. V'tavin zelakaman, and we should understand this later on, beside ha'sha'arim, when it comes to understanding the gates through which a person can draw down this light. Ki David haya omer, as David Malka Mashiach would say, Pischu li sharet tzedek, open up for me the gates of righteousness. Va'amar oideka, again, the gates of righteousness open up when a person contemplates the shame Yud K and the secret of Aleph Vav Reish Yud K. V'al Yidei Zeh V'al Zeh HaYud K Shel Aleph Vav Reish Yud K Sha'amarnu. And this is the secret of entering into Gan Eden by way of contemplating the name associated with the guardian of Gan Eden. Again, all of this is halacha v'lo l'maisa. All of this is reminding us that when we think about Hashem's name, wherever we find ourselves, we have the ability of drawing down the refined air of Gan Eden, where things are still okay, into the polluted air of this worldliness, where things are no longer okay. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to open up the pockets. We're trying to open up the gates to draw the air of Gan Eden down, to take a deep breath, and to allow oneself to be okay in the moment. That's the Yud Or. That's where the tzimtzum of the Yud is no longer blocking the expansion of the Or. The light light doesn't have to come drip by drip by drip, where there's one person who has a lot of the light and another person has a little bit of the light, and there's the hierarchy of who has more light. But as the Ramchal said, the yud leaving the or, allowing the or to express itself fundamentally, will naturally descend down to each and every person in accordance with their measure, and each and every person will have what they need, and the yud, the tzimtzum, will be a side act which will be there to perpetually reignite the passion for more or, but it won't be because the or is being blocked. And when we live with this moichin of drawing down the or, that comes from the shame Yud K, Chachma and Bina, to be mamtik all of the difficulty. So in that moment, we open our breath up and we're able to taste a breath of air from Gan Eden itself, which illuminates our ability to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu right here, right now. The whole goal is to come to see that even though we're kicked out of Gan Eden, there's a major part of us that is still fundamentally in Gan Eden. And if I orient myself to that place in Gan Eden, then punkt nimsa, I'm in Gan Eden in this moment. And in Gan Eden, it's Yoshim, it's Rosehem, Biroshayim, the crowns are in their head, which is Hasaga, which is Shvisi Hashem Nelegi Tamid, which is being a little bit more aware of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, being mamtik, the polluted air, a little bit more wandering out of our comfort zone, drawing down, drawing up and drawing down that light, that illumination, that expansivity of the or itself, the endlessness of it, and the recognition that any prevention that blocks the or from unfolding in the way that it needs to is simply a prevention that is wedged in the heart of the or, but it doesn't mean that the or can't be expressed. All we have to do is uncover that impediment, take the yud out, allow the yud to become secondary to the or, and to allow the or to shine by way of the magnification and the intensification that takes place through the yud itself. Be'ezras Hashem.